Hey, what's good y'all? It's the boy Jozy Santino back with another video, and in this video I'm gonna show you how to make a rod wave type sample which is just previewed. So yeah, let's start the video. Alright, so the tempo for the loop is 165. So I started with keyscape. I used this LA custom preset. Alright, so these are the notes for the melody of the piano. So now let me explain what I did here. Alright, so let me mute this top notes. I started with A sharp major chord, then I moved to C major chord, then I moved to D minor chord, and I also added this top notes and filler notes here and there, and then I added bass notes here, and again I've added bass notes here as well. So let's just hear the chord progression. And after that I added this top notes, and by the way this melody is in the key of D minor. So after that what I did was I rendered this piano melody into wave audio file. So you can do that by right clicking here and clicking consolidate this track from track start or from song start, you can choose anyone. So this is the rendered piano melody. Alright, for the effects I started with Effect Rack. I used this analog chorus preset which is under the chorus folder, and the mix level is 40%. Next I used Valhalla Vintage Work. I put this mix to like 20%, decay is like 1.17, and I did some low cut here, 300 Hz. Next we have an EQ cutting the lows and cutting the highs, another EQ cutting lows and cutting highs. Alright, so let's hear the piano with and without the effects. So as you can hear it, the piano with the effects sounds pretty good, but without effects it sounds very dry and not good. So yeah. So next I use this Ample Guitar TC, and I use this default preset. So these are the notes for the guitar melody, and after that I rendered this guitar melody into wave audio. Alright, so for the effects I started with the Guitar Rig 6 and I used this preset. Next we have Valhalla Vintage Work. I put mix to like 22.4%. I put decay to like 1.48 seconds, and I did low cut like 350. Next I have Saber Box. So I'm using this pan thing. I'm using this preset and mix is like 63%. Lastly we have an EQ cutting the lows, cutting the highs, and also cutting a little bit of the mid, and the stereo separation is like 45%. So let's hear the guitar melody with and without the effects. So next I use this Carby Rickenbacker bass from Contact, and these are the notes for the bass sounds. So it's just following the bass notes, but on the last part it has some extra notes. For the effects I just have an EQ cutting the highs, cutting a little bit of the mid and boosting the lows, and I'm also cutting under 25 Hz because I just want the sample to sound clean, and anyway you won't hear anything below 25 Hz. So yeah, let's hear the bass guitar by itself. Alright, so next I'm using Vocal Runs 2. I'm using this preset. and this plugin is very good for vocal chop samples. And these are the notes for the vocal chops. So for the effects, I have an EQ, cutting the lows and cutting the highs, and I'm cutting the lows and highs a lot because I want this vocal chop to sit more on the background of the mix. Next, I have effect rack. I have this big white doubler preset, which is under the chorus folder, and the mix level of effect rack is 48%. Next, I have 𝘾𝙤𝙘𝙩 𝙈𝙚. I have this vocal air preset. I played with the mix and played with the decay. Next, I have compressor. So these are my settings, and I use this compressor in the vocal chop just to gain a little bit of volume and make it sound a little bit more punchy. And lastly, I have an EQ, heavily cutting the lows and cutting a little bit of the highs, and the stereo separation is 38%. Now let's hear the vocal chop with and without the effects. So the next sound that I used is a wah sound from a sample pack. So let's hear this wah sound. And I turned down the pitch to like -700 cents, and I did that because I wanted the key of the wah sample to match with the key of the melody, so that's why I did that. And these are the notes for the wah sound. So for the effects, I just have an EQ, cutting the lows and cutting the highs. So next, I used Omnisphere. I used this bluesy lid under the guitar section, and these are the notes for the guitar lead. So for the effects, firstly I have an EQ, cutting the lows and cutting the highs. Then I have camel crusher. I have this British clean preset, and the mix level is like 12%, and I'm using this to add distortion and add a little bit of that punch. Next, I have 𝘾𝙤𝙘𝙩 𝙈𝙚. I played with the mix and I played with the decay, and low cut is like 370. And lastly, I have an EQ again, cutting the lows and highs. So after that, I started arranging my loop. So for the first 8 bar, I have all the sounds except the lead guitar sound, and for the other 8 bar, I have all the sounds. And for the other 16 bar, I have all the sounds except the bass sound. And I also place these individual sounds one by one, so that if a producer uses my loop, that producer can also have stems for arrangement purposes. And after that, I rendered all of this to wave audio again, and then I linked this wave audio to a mixer track, and then I add a sketch cassette. I just put this on type 1 and this on standard. I added this because it adds some kind of texture and makes the loop sound good. And then I have an EQ, just cutting a little bit of the mud or the muddy frequency, and also I turned down the volume a little bit on the mixer track. And now I added the master effects. So for the master effects, firstly I added imager. So I turned everything below 150 into mono, like 100% mono, like very down. And on the mid frequency, I increased a little bit of the width, and also on the high mid frequency a little bit more, and also on the very high frequency I increased the width. So this adds kind of like a stereo fill to your loop. And I didn't turn this button on because on this loop I wanted it to be very subtle, because already the stereo image was quite good before, so I did not want it to add a lot. So yeah. Next, I have an EQ. I cut everything below 24 Hz and everything below around 16,000 Hz. And lastly, I have this Pro L limiter just to push the volume up and make the loop, you know, sound loud. So yeah, that's it. So yeah guys, that's it for today. I hope you liked this video. Please hit the like button and subscribe button, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Jozy_Santino. And yeah, see you in the next video.